one of these.
Are we ready? Ready? I've been asked to open us up with a karakia, so I'll do that. E te matua puna whakaaro nui katoa, te taumatoa mātauranga nui katoa. Ho mai kia mātou he kanohi kia kite, he ngākau kia mohio, kia pūmau ai o mātou hinengaro kia tau e pai ai. Āmene. There we go, I'm awake. Morena koutou, it's a pleasure to say a few words to introduce our speakers and our kōrero this morning. A beautiful opening for the exhibition Whakawhiti last night, which most of you were here to celebrate and to I suppose, to catch up with one another and to look at the works across 6 of the Toi Whakaata, as they've been described, of a really unique collective that's honouring 20 years of its practice. And see, I always get this part mixed up. Toi Whakaata, yeah, see? Or Toi Whakaata? You take your pick, people. But I suppose both of those names represent the journey and the works you see in the room and the thinking. So it's a real pleasure to have our first printmaking specific highlighted show, and couldn't be a better exhibition to celebrate that kaupapa with. And just to acknowledge the 6 wahine here, Vanessa Edwards, Gabrielle Belz, Maude Cook-Davies, Alexis Neal, Jasmine Horton, and Faith McManus. And I won't talk too much about the collective because I know that that's what they're going to illuminate for us today, but suffice to say that each one of them have a connection to the north, whether through whakapapa or through residing here and offering something to the community that shapes part of what you see in the show as well. But I suppose for me it's really amazing to catch up with some of my Te Atinga colleagues, of which I was part of for many years, and to see its growth and to see its connection to the show and to the people is really heartening. And I think just to sort of see the variety of making, I think when I look at the exhibition, I'm really struck by how strong every particular work and artist's contribution is, but also how unique each voice is. There's no overlapping in voice or in vision or in message, so it's quite a phenomenal show, and it's a pleasure for us as the Wairau Māori Art Gallery trustees to have you guys here and to celebrate your mahi in this moment. So I'm going to leave it there and pass the mic to the curator of the exhibition, Vanessa Edwards. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora, Nigel. Morena koutou, nau mai hara mai, hoki mai, ka pai kiti kiti a koutou katoa. Yes, I'm Vanessa, I'm the curator and of Whakawhiti, and it's been a real pleasure to bring this work together and bring the exhibition together over, probably started this conversation maybe a year ago, maybe even longer, planted the seed of the opportunity to curate at Wairau. And when that offer was put on the table, immediately Toi Whakaata and a print focused exhibition was my passion, and I could see our artists in this space. So over time, we actually were here last November at Te Kowhai Print Trust and had a wānanga alongside Hamish and the crew up there to regather our group once again in preparation for our 20-year anniversary, and to kind of plan and think about how we wanted to execute this year and reconnect. And that was another phenomenal week, and I must say Te Kowhai Print Trust, we have to acknowledge that space. There's a bit of a whakapapa there with Jasmine being the director of the space at one point, and Hamish bringing us back into that space. So, I mean, what a special space, totally print orientated, and we're quite envious actually of that little area up in the quarry. So we had a great time, and it became natural for us to return, and we had this opportunity. So returning now gave us enough time to kind of reflect on that wānanga we had there, and we had Printopia at the beginning of the year in Auckland, which was a larger group show, He Kaputi Maude, curated by Gabrielle, in the fury of Printopia and the Auckland Art Fair. And then we got into preparation for this show, which is a bit of a smaller selection of the core group of our members who really contribute back into the rōpū, are constantly making print, and are really the po of our group throughout the years. So, kia ora koutou. So today we're going to have a little kōrero about each person's mahi. Thank you for coming out this morning. So we kind of would like it to be more of an organic conversation with people in the audience and our artists. Each artist will have an opportunity to have a little kōrero and introduce themselves, and we'll be moving around the room, but I'll have a mic and an artist will have a mic as well, so you should be able to hear us, and just speaking to each artist's mahi, and that should take up plenty of time, I would say. But if you have any questions at the end of each artist, feel free to ask, and of course we'll be here a little bit after the talk as well, and you can have a little kōrero then too. Ka pai? Any questions so far? Great, we'll crack on. So our first artist we're going to have a little kōrero with will be Gabrielle. So hara mai, Gabes.
Gabes.
Don't forget that.
Oh my goodness.
Kia ora koutou.
So I'll just give Gabes the opportunity to introduce herself, and I'm just going to hand it over to you. You need no instruction.
Kia ora Vanessa. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Gabrielle Belz ahau no Ngāpuhi e Te Atiawa. I've been a printmaker for a long time, and it's with so much pleasure that I see what's happened here. It seems as though it's a combination of many years of working in print and working with other printmakers. So, ngā mihi ke a koutou e te whānau print.
Okay, kia ora. So these are Gabe's beautiful prints on the back wall here. Very strong pieces. There are 4 new works and 4 slightly older works, really. But I was...
Two older works.
2 older works. And when these works were being made and Gabe was sending me images of the works in progress, I was struck by these portraits of wahine and very curious as to who they are. So, ko wai e nei wahine, Gabes?
Oh, kia ora. The works are celebrating many of the, I guess 5 if we can't rei tū and rei pai, women who are significant to whakapapa within the north. So the top one, and to me they have so many qualities that we can use ourselves as exemplars of behaviour and experiences that women have through their life. And you can read them in whichever way the story that you know goes. So the top one is Ahuaiti with her son Uenuku. And the story is that she moved from Whiria to her own people's maunga when she was discarded by her husband over the fern roots. And the story goes was that she was isolated and her only companion was Uenuku, the rainbow. And so her son became, when he was born, was Unuku. Unuku later was the father of Maikuku. Maikuku was a puhi, and she was trained in the arts of performance. She was set aside for purposes of regeneration. However, Hua heard about her beauty and decided to seek her out. And when he found her, she said, "Oh well, you know, you've broken the tapu. I was in this cave, and you've broken the tapu, and now it's no use anymore. It's kakino." And he said, "No, it's okay. It's pai. It faces the sun." And so one of their sons was named Te Rā, the sun. The next one of the reasons that I use relief printing is because I really like the crispness of it. I like the way that you can make reference to a number of traditional arts, whether it's whakairo or rāranga, the patterning that goes through. And so apart from the graphic quality, there's also that element of pattern. The story with Reitu and Reipai was that in some stories they're told that they flew up on a kariario. Another story is that there was a man that had heard about their beauty and sent a messenger. So whether they rode the back of a giant bird or whether they followed a messenger, her story, there's lots of interpretations that you can give. But they moved up from the Waikato and settled and became the progenitors of several lines of whakapapa here. And, you know, that connection with the Waikato and with Tainui is continuous. This one is a later one, Turika Tuku. She was the chief wife of Honeheke. And so when you look at the image, she was a musician, so she has the puturino. She was also a gardener, so there's a raukumara pattern at the back. And you'll see the waka that Hongi was preparing to go on his missions. You'll see the guns on the side, the rifles on the side that were used in exchange for the crops that she produced. But such a knowing and wise woman, a politician, a gardener, you know, there's lots of qualities that all these women have had. Any questions so far? Okay. The two text ones on either side are it's inspired by a woman who lived several centuries ago and lived in a totally different country. And her name is Hildegard of Bremen. And some of you may have heard of her. She was a musician, she was a matakite, she was an artist, she was a composer, she was a writer, she was a scientist, she was a healer. There was a whole heap of qualities that she also had. And in some of the writings that she documented, I was inspired to by the thoughts that she was expressing that seemed to align so much with Māori thought. Her awareness of a higher being, the awareness of the connection of all life forms throughout Te Taiao, the Maude that she saw in every object. And so I wanted to put some of her words or her thoughts into a similar thought with Te Reo. I've been working with text for a long time. The reason why this is in the format was not long after the current government put their ban on patches. And, you know, sort of what is a patch? It's a signifier. And so that was the reason for that. I've been working with text for probably about 18 years, I think. Just from time to time it pops up and I'll use it within the works that I do. It's partly in recognition of the written form that came with the during the time of contact. And I just thought it must have been pretty amazing for the ability to have a piece of paper that could carry a message. And it's like, you know, it's another way of kānohi, ki te kānohi. But this one acknowledges the being, the higher being, for peace and guidance to all things. And the other one is similar, but it's talking more about that energy that comes up from the earth, the abundance of things. And the lines that I've used here is sort of like to carry the way of Waiata.
Beautiful.
Any questions? No?
Kia ora,
Kia ora
Gabe.
koutou, thank you for listening.
Such a pro. Kia ora. Kia ora, Gabes. Our next artist we will speak to will be Jasmine Horton. Jasmine resides up here, halfway between here and Dargaville. Morena, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Kia ora koutou, ko Jasmine Horton taku ingoa. I whakapapa to Te Ati Haunui a Paparangi, Ngāti Tūwhare Toa and Te Ati Awa ki Whakarongotai. Yeah, kia ora.
Morena. We had a fun time putting this work together for the show, Jasmine?
Yeah.
Jasmine is a real thinker with her work in terms of construction and challenging the boundaries of print. And this is a prime example of her thought process and her communication style, I would say. So first off, the structure of this work. Jazz, do you want to talk to the concept of the book?
So there's 5 books here, and they're called Explosion or Exploding Books. And can you grab this and I'll actually show you how they work, if you're okay. I think like
Yeah, you might need 2 people.
a gentle wiggle. They're called an exploding book. So they're a construction type. Sorry. I have it. Sorry. So yeah, they were a little pretty full on. I halfway through the making, I kind of thought, why the heck am I even why did I do this? And then but luckily we had cool techs that figured out how to keep them open, and I workshopped with Ness on how we would display them, and this final way kind of just worked with the kaupapa of my concept as well, so it all kind of
have a little kōrero about the theme of this mahi, which was quite powerful, and the way that we managed to decide to lay it out was in like a land form, so it creates a sense of along components of land.
Yeah, so when Ness said the theme of our show was going to be whakawhiti, and I kind of thought the current climate in New Zealand and throughout the world is pretty anti-Indigenous, if being honest. And I couldn't help draw parallels with some of the things I was seeing overseas and some of the ways that things had been handled in our country as well. And once you've seen that, you can't really unsee it. So I wanted to draw parallels with the disposition that we'd had in our colonial history with the way certain cultures like Palestine and others throughout the world have these things happen to them as well. So that was my whakawhiti theme. And yeah, so I used a lot of imagery from, it was more talking about the systems that get put into place that kind of keep people out of or off their land, ways that they change the laws to move people or to say that they had a right to push them out. So I talked about the raupatu from our history, the first Māori land court hearings that we had, and just the way that they would use the court systems and the laws and policy changes. And we're still kind of seeing that sort of kaupapa today, even when you think about Mike Smith and how he's trying to, the Supreme Court said he could take it to court and challenge these corporations that are having issues with climate change or creating climate change, and the government changed policies to keep him out of that and to change the way. So we're still seeing those structures and systems in place, and so that's what my work's about. It's about talking about those systems that we're still fighting against.
Yeah, the overall effect of it has this real spiky kind of pointy, and someone described it as quite violent kind of feel to the work as it actually literally kind of explodes out of the whenua. So that was really amazing to see that put all together. But usually jazz works in the format of cyanotype, and cyanotype usually looks like, or is more familiar to people as a blue tone, but here you'll see it as a more of a brown tone, and I wanted you to talk about how you achieved that.
Yeah, so I had a friend bring up some kōtukutuku bark from Waikanai, and you can pull the colour out of cyanotype. You can pull the blue out and replace it with another tone, and so that I created a bark tea, and I changed the tone so that it was to bring the whenua aspect in, and to also talk about how place permeates your being. Really, it becomes who you are. So yeah.
Kia ora, is any pātai for Jasmine at the moment? Or you can come and have a closer look at her puka puka afterwards. We'll just leave that like that for now, and then people can have a look. Thank you, Jasmine. Okay, our next artist will have a chat to these beautiful suspended whāriki here. rolling her eyes at me already. Alexis. She doesn't need the mic, obviously. Morena, introduce yourself, Alexis.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Ko Alexis Neal toka ingoa, ko Ngāti Awa me Te Ati Awa, ko wharehine me whangaripo, e kaipara, tuku kāinga e kaipara. I am...
Hang on.
Sorry.
You need that because we're recording it. I was brought up in Auckland, but about 20 odd years ago we moved up to the Kaipara, mainly for a lifestyle change. And we're on a rural property in Wharehine, but I also own a studio in Whangaripo, which is the old road between Wellsford and Pakari. In the beginning of the year, I started a body of work called To Lay, To Carry, To Hold. And that title came from a piece of writing from a previous body of work called Holding Space. And often that happens in my practice where the next body of work connects to the last body of work, because it's a continual conversation that I am having. And it's really important that the old and the new have a connection. So the first component is to lay, and so this suite of 7 works are based on woven whāriki, woven mats. They were also strongly influenced by tukutuku, and the main theme of that body of work has a very strong pepeha construct that will run through that body of work. So this is the first component. To Carry is a suite of woven adornment series, which this is the beginning of. And then the third component is To Hold, which will be a large suite of lithographic mixed media prints. I envision that this body of work will take 3 years to make, but I wanted to make it in year slots, if you like. So I started making this work in February this year, and I began with creating what feels to me my visual whakapapa, about how we would introduce ourselves, our waka, our motu, our awa, our maunga, our people, our wharenui, and our po, our ancestral po. And originally, like any body of work, you start with this really ambitious plan, well, I do, and then as I work through the process, I start to simplify it, because sometimes we overthink things. So often through the making, I start to go, oh, hang on a minute, that's kind of double saying what I'm trying to say. So I think over the last 30 odd years of making, the backbone of my practice is printmaking, and it's a really important component of that practice because it informs everything else that I do. I have always had a love affair with weaving, and I am a self-taught weaver. I, for many years, just watched and learnt and visited museums and just read books, and then eventually I plucked up the courage to start making something more three-dimensional. So that first part of that process was starting to print and then cut down those prints into sections to then reconstruct them into woven from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional pieces. And then I developed a very strong interest in taniko weaving. I think I have an obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I'm really going to own it because it suits
it suits who I am. I am a maker, and I learnt very early on that I learn through doing. And my process is very repetitious. Printmaking and weaving have a very similar relationship in terms of the making process. Additioning, we are able to make multiples if we like. And weaving is very much about repeating the action of weaving. Visual mathematics, as I would understand it. I failed School C maths twice, but obviously I can work things out visually. So, yeah.
Ka pai. This is such a striking work, a body of work. Aroha mai. And of course, Alexis had it finished like 2 months prior to everybody else. And when we had to call for a digital image to go on the poster, it was like, oh, Alexis, we need one of your works, because the only ones that were finished. But we very much look forward to seeing the rest of that body of work come together in the future. Thank you, Lexi.
Kia ora.
Oh, we're doing well. We're doing very well. So come on down. And the next star of the house will be a very stunning Maude Cook-Davies. Everyone will have to just swivel around in your chairs. So just quickly, e tu, huri atu, ki te kona. And Whaia, would you like a chair over there, or are you kei te pai ki te tu?
I'll stand, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this fine lady needs no introduction, and I must have you draw your attention to her beautiful kākahu as well. You can introduce yourself, Maude.
Okay. Kia ora tātou. Welcome to our lovely exhibition. Taku ingoa ko Maude Cook-Davies o Ngāti Hine. Taku marae ko tau hinare. E rawa ko Maungarongo. Wow, so I don't do this often. Usually singing, not talking. Perhaps I can start from the beginning. Basically, I'm a textile designer, and over the years I've ventured into where I'm at now. So my creativity started as a machinist. My families were all that in their history. I was interested in weaving, but I discovered that I didn't have the patience for weaving, so I continued with the clothing and textiles. Also, within the realm of the textiles, I was a designer in carpet and wool, so that's sort of my background. Entered a lot of fashion shows. I'm wearing a jacket I made about 30 years ago. I still fit it, almost. So I thought I'd wear it today to be part of what we're looking at today. My works here that's being displayed is, if we look at the print I've got on the wall, is also, I guess, looking at where I've taken it from the black and white woodcut prints, and I looked at retro. What I do when I create is I look at interior design, what's fashionable now, what isn't, what's going out, what's coming in. This one, I believe that the change in textiles interior designing is going into the colour form. So this is where this has come into. The pattern on that is the heke of our maraes. But in actual fact, I've increased that 1, 2, 3 times the size as it originally was. This design was one of my fabric clothing designs. which I created during the Te Māori exhibition time in that era. So I've now brought it forward to now with a different look, a different form, different colours, different purposes. So it can be displayed either way, but in this case Vanessa has displayed it this way. So that's on that one there. So coming back into the fabric, because I only had I had 2 other exhibitions prior to this, so I had to produce new works for this exhibition, and that was the newest, hot off the press. But because Vanessa is familiar with my background in textiles, I pulled out a few fabrics that I had in store to add to the dimension of what we've got here. So she had a choice of about 7 pieces, and this is what she had chosen. With some of the large fabrics I used to print on block prints, screen printing, and this is on a lovely piece of Georgette. Also, this piece of fabric was created over 30 years ago as well. So we've got a little bit of a new and old. But what I'm doing here is really trying to bring you on a journey. I still got it because it wasn't a popular colour or anything that people wanted. But today, when you look at fashion designs and clothing, look at the other ethnic garments that's coming through, the Africans, other, Mexican, you get this sort of a look. So that's been my dilemma all my life. I was always ahead of my time. So I think this falls into the now, right now. A comment was made last night. Somebody said, "Oh, it looks, what do you call it when you go into the bush so that you're sort of, yeah." And I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, fine." So, but on the other outskirts, so this, what I used to do is print fabric lengths 3 to 4 metre long. I think this is about 3.5 metres long, I'm not sure. And there's 3 processes in that to get that effect. So when this come down, I might make a nice garment out of it, yeah. So that's about it for me, I think. I've taken up my time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any
Awesome.
questions?
Can we just get a little look at that blazer and that screen print on the side of it there? Yeah, nice. Chair.
Screen printing was my thing when I was doing fabric, garments. I did a lot of screen printing. This is one of the ones. I've got some more at home, but I can only wear one. So I did make and measure for a lot of customers. A lot of my clients, of course, was the Māori Women's Welfare League members, right throughout Te Motu. I had a lot to do with them. My success in, if I might be bold enough to say, in my textile era was I catered for the fuller figure that nobody else did.
Kia ora.
And so I guess I took my art into a business, and it was because of that vision. You have, when you do your art, even now, I believe you have to still look at where is your market. Okay, you've got the creativity happening in your form of creating your artwork, but you still, I think, have to have a little bit of a business mind to look at where and who are you targeting. And that's not bringing any calibre of any sort down from your mahi. In fact, you're doing it the other way.
Kia ora.
So it's understanding where your design, who you're going to target, where you're going to target, and the purpose of it, as well as your kōrero, of course. So, kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora whaia. Awesome. Now we're going to do a little shuffle around again to face this way, and you can shuffle back a bit so she's got a bit of breathing space. Kia ora Maude, that was wonderful. I think you need to have your own lecture series to help educate young artists about the bizzo of being a creative, across a number of sectors. I'd like to watch that podcast. But another heavy hitter, and my Faith used to actually be my tutor at art school back in Wanganui. So over the years it's always been a real privilege to come back into space with Faith, watch her teach again, watch her contribute into exhibitions, talk about her mahi, talk about print, and it brings back all those memories for me back at art school when I'd be in awe sitting in class as she would pull out beautiful etching plates and just bring these magical things to life. So without further ado, Faith.
Thanks, Vanessa. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Faith McManus tōku ingoa, ko te ahu, te maunga, ko o māpare te awa, ko para whenua te marae, ko uri tanawha me ko korohue te hapu. Hari mātinga te tūpuna. Okay, so on the last day of our wānanga in November, our mum and a karana had a fall, and that was the beginning of a process of quite a few weeks where our mum was in a great deal of pain and then passed away. So this suite of works is dedicated to our mum and a karana, who was an artist, an educator and a weaver, and a wonderful storyteller and friend to many, many people. So that's really where this work comes out of, that very deep and tender space that we all experience when we lose someone really close to us, and especially a mum. So it took me a long time to actually had a gap from before I started making the work, and I knew the exhibition was coming up, and I had previously made 2 hue works in this manner for varying reasons. I had started drawing and photographing hue that were carved by Dr. Bruce Gregory, and some of you will know who he is. He was our doctor, but also our Labour MP up in the far north, and a friend. So I had, one of my best mates was his partner, and I had made some drawings from those, her collection. And then someone gave me some seeds, so I grew some hue and I did some more drawing. And I found a new way of working. So I'm highly sensitised to chemicals, so I have my relationship with printmaking is that I love it desperately, and I have to work in with a limited range because things just kill my brain. So I am always trying to find ways to develop my practice, but also to find new ways. So Alexis and I were talking about this the other day, is that you get to a stage and you just don't want to buy more stuff. You know, you want to get through the stuff that you have that's sitting in your drawers. And so I'll just go over here. These pieces here, this background, this piece here, this is part of a really large series of prints that made up an installation that was in Hanganui, but also in Te Manawa, which was part of my master's work. So I had this big box of pieces that I thought, actually, I'll take them and transform them in the process for this exhibition. And so my work always grows out of what's happening to me and my environment, and I suppose a desire to acknowledge and sort of support the strong woman that I've always been in my life. So there's all sorts of little bits and pieces that go in there, but I can't say to you this piece means this. They're really all about me processing emotion, and also about the kind of adjustments that happen in a whānau when suddenly someone's not there to have a cup of tea with and tell you you'll be okay. So they're kind of, there's a space that's left, and we're still here. Sometimes we're a little disturbed, we're leaning on each other, we're supporting each other, sometimes we're falling over, sometimes we're lifting each other up. And so, and then there are sort of little things for me, like with this one, you know, I live above the Northern Wairoa River, and there's the most beautiful magical fogs. And so I wanted to kind of evoke that sense of fog, but also sometimes when you're grieving, it's like you're in a fog as well. So these are some of the aspects that go in to the work. And I also have the support of, whānau, so that when I have my making, I have people like my brother who will come along and talk to me about my work, and then we'll name them together. And then I had my wonderful niece Rebecca, who arrived when I was making the final. I'd made the final two works, and so she shared her mataranga around Hinipu Te Hui, and all of a sudden I think, oh, that's what's that about. So then that kōrero with Rebecca helped me to name these works, and which were really around, again, the idea of how she didn't fight and take sides like the other children did. She breathed in, and then she brought calm to the storms and the emotions. And so after that I thought, oh, obviously that's what I was doing, and now this makes sense. And that's something that I would like to acknowledge about my practice, is that sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm operating in a space of complete, like, let's just see what happens. And so although, for me there are component parts where when I put in some weaving, I'm acknowledging my female lineage and my mum and my nan, and if there's stars, I'm thinking about the heavens. So all of those things go in there, and it's like you have some ingredients, and hopefully those particular ingredients will come together to produce some beautiful, visual feast, and the meanings will emerge out of those. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Have you carved hui yourself?
No, I haven't. I love other people's carving of hui, but I don't feel that I want to do that. I've got wooden shapes cut out in the shapes of hui that I use for printing. Yeah. My cousin Steve did offer me some. Oh, maybe I'll get there one day. Yeah.
Kia ora.
Are your inks vegetable based?
So the only inks that I can use safely are inks called aqua, but I was using I did have a brief fling with some inks called Cranfield. We had a time together, and last week Cranfield made me sick and ready to vomit in 10 minutes. So the Huey printed parts, they're on harakeke paper that's bonded to the other print, which is on cotton rag paper. So there's a process called chine collé, which was invented hundreds of years ago in mezzotint, where European paper was kind of coarse and knobbly, and Chinese paper was beautiful and fine. So in order to get a beautiful impression from a mezzotint, they bonded the Chinese paper to the European paper. And so in contemporary practice, people have taken that and run wild with it. But that's a part of my making stuff. Yeah.
Kia ora whaia. Thank you very much, Faith. That's beautiful. Kia ora. Okay, guys, we'll finish off with just huri mai.
You don't need two. I don't need two.
So wrong.
I'd like to introduce Vanessa. Oh, thank you very much.
Introducing myself. Gabrielle can introduce you.
Kia ora, te rōpū. It's always amazing to hear even our own group speak because we just learn new things about each other and are reminded about the complexities of one another's mahi, the complexities of our practices and processes, and also like some commonalities around how we practice, how we think, and how we present our mahi as well and talk about it. So that was incredibly inspiring. Kia ora, koutou. So ko wai nei e tū atu nei, he uri ahau no te tihi o Tongariro, ki te taho taupo moana, no nā te tūwhare toa, no nā te whakatohia hoki i te taho tōku papa. Engari i te taho tōku mama, no nā te kahu, nā te kuri, hoki ahau. Ko Vanessa Wairata Edwards-Boga, tōku ingoa. So I'll give a brief kōrero about my components in the show and then maybe a little bit about the approach to bringing these works together to wrap up our kōrero today. So first I'll talk about the large works here with this piece, which pairs with the other piece in the alcove over here. These are two large works that were the product of my master's exhibition through Massey, Toi Whakaata, and I was researching into the introduction of the printing press and its effect on Māori back in the day. And of course the first printing press was the letterpress, brought by the missionaries. And that threw me into a deep research vortex of history, the effect of text, how does text affect an Indigenous culture, how do you turn an oral culture into a text culture, who has the authority to do such a thing, who was involved, for what purpose, and how does that affect us now. Also, I come from a Catholic Māori family, so the coming of the missionaries was like the first wave, readying the people for colonisation after indoctrination. So some would say that first you colonise the spirit and then everything else comes after. So I'm a product of that for sure, and my master's was an opportunity for me to kind of peel back the layers of my personal experience with colonisation through education, religion, society, etc., and kind of really have a really good look at that. And throughout that process and utilising the skills that I have developed over the years, I started to really look at text in a different way. What is text? They're just individual symbols put together to give you a message, like ko whaiwhai, individual components just put together to deliver a message, or triangles in our tāniko, etc. So our visual language or literacy was pattern, and it had been replaced largely by this new code, this new pattern that we started to utilise. So in a sense, I'm reclaiming text by applying ko whaiwhai principles to small words, repeating, flipping, rotating, and turning a kupu, a word, back into pattern, and printing that through the space. So words like eke, ka eke, to rise, aka, which is the vine that travels up through the ngahere, and just kind of looking at these small, very powerful words within our language. And I'm continuously on the journey of learning and strengthening Maude, and trying to put intention back into Maude, whether it be Māori or English, or whatever language I'm using. So those were those two pieces. The other strange thing about them is I'm showing the blocks, the woodcut blocks with the work, which in a European structure is a no-no. In fact, once your edition is created, they destroy the plates, so that the investment of the printed works is maintained, so you can't make any more work from that plate or that block. However, when we put a Māori lens onto our process, I consider the idea that our plates or our blocks are the tupuna, or the ancestor, the origin, and every print that comes off of that plate or that block becomes a descendant. Therefore, the blocks and the plates become exceptionally invaluable really, and must be very precious and preserved. And in that sense as well, rather than making additions that are exactly the same, I like to make generations of work. So they can be different, like brothers and sisters or cousins, but I can also activate that whenua or those plates at any time and bring the ancestor back into play and just simply create another generation of mahi, which is a lot more fun, isn't it, for us? We can change the colour, we can put a cloud in it, put a hole in it, and it's great, it's a whole new thing. So, yeah, and it just keeps that whakapapa alive. But for this show, for Whakawhiti, I created this series of mahi, my po, Poatanga o Te Ao, or the Dawning of the World, and I actually started printing these organic fauna components back at the Wānanga at Te Kowhai Print Trust last November. I had large offcuts of paper that actually came off cutting the paper from my master's show, so I had this massive stack of just long, thin strips. And like Alexis and Faith, I wanted to, keep utilising things that are building up in your drawers. So I just took that big stack up to Te Kowhai and utilised the flora from around that beautiful studio and started to print it. Not really knowing what was going to happen, but the concept formulated over that wānanga as I started to think about this exhibition and what Toi Whakaata means in the separation of rangi and papa. So I started to conjure up that there would be 7 po, they would come off the floor, I'd make concertina books. Again, that concept of the book comes into play, of the book, education. Instead of text in the book, there's just images through the whole book. And that they would rise up to the ceiling, kind of mimicking the separation. So Some of it was printed there, some of it was printed at the Whiti International Gathering in Gisborne at the start of this year, and then they were all finished in my studio back in Whanganui. And this was the first time I got to see them hanging in space, and that's what that work is about, that response. I think that's plenty from me. Kia ora. So it was a real privilege to bring the mahi together from these 6 wahine, and some really surprising elements that popped up for us as we put the show together was just the strength of each individual's contribution. Like, I know they're good, but they never cease to surprise me or amaze me when I open the boxes and amazing, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And each person could really just talk for an hour on their mahi easily with their skills and ideas and concepts and thoughts and contributions. So there's this real sense of vertical running through the space, duality running through the space as well, like peering. Like Faith is peering 2 actual separate prints together to make 1 print there. So there's actually 6 prints up there. And then she's got this beautiful triptych. And I've got peerings, and then we've got these 4 over here, and then the 2 text works as well. So there's these nice relationships happening within the individual bodies of work, but also across as a whole rōpū. And then one thing that Larissa actually touched on last night in her kōrero was light and dark, or the shadows. And I know this space has the ability to really dim down and be quite a moody gallery space, and that's what I was looking for this show. Almost like a safe, like womb of potential and possibility and narratives. But what was great was the sense of being able to achieve light and dark throughout the entire show. And across Jasmine's mahi, creating beautiful shadows, Alexis's shadows onto the wall, so you can actually kind of just squint behind and see the reverse of her beautiful whāriki as well. And then when we finally selected Maude's textile work, which was one of the last selections, I did select this work because I felt like when I looked at it, it was like looking through the canopy of the ngahere, up through the branches, up through the leaves, and into the sky. You know, that dappled light when you kind of go through the ngahere, and that shifts and changes as you move through. So it was a really beautiful pairing with this body of work as well. So I think that's all from me. Does anybody have any pātai at this stage? Yes. Thank you, Raywin. Thank you for that segue. Yes. Although there's no pricing on the wall, not all the works are for sale, I must say, but there definitely are. We're all practicing artists, and we all appreciate our valued patrons and people. If you are interested in the work, just let Larissa know. And she'll get in touch with us and we can facilitate a conversation. But the artists are here, we'll be here for a little wee while after this, so feel free to have a look around at the show, have a kōrero to any of the artists, and thank you very much for coming. Kia ora.
Yeah, nice.
Ngā mihi, I've got one question. If you were to think about the 20 years, what would be one of the key highlights or the thing that stands out to you when you think about that journey?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
What, thinking about the 20 years, Maude,
Yeah.
or our time together, what would be a key highlight for you along that journey?
Me?
Yeah. You can start, Maude.
The last 20 years, I probably have to talk about 50 years. But I think the key impact for me would be the collaboration, friendship, the creativity that we all individually share. And I think that's what it is, sharing. And I say that quite honestly because I spent some years in Australia working with the Aborigines, and they found it very difficult to share. When I introduced Ngāpuhi there, they were overwhelmed at our relationship with each other and sharing. That's everything, not just, they're very protective of their art, but that was for everything. And I think we broke that through, didn't we, Rhonda? So for me, that would be the key thing for me over the years it's sharing and trusting. And that will come out, I think, in your work, in your mahi, in your relationship. And we are still friends today with our neighbours across the creek. So, nō reira, that's my awa.
Kia ora koutou. Yeah, Maude sort of picked on that thing of the sharing, which was really, has been part of our journey. And in that sharing, there's the solidification, I suppose, of how we see print, because one person can see print in a particular way, but then being able to share the kōrero, talking about whakapapa, talking about the separation. You know, these are all ways that we've sort of evolved the kaupapa around print, and it's sort of become a shared kaupapa. And I think that that's really important, that while one person may follow through on a practice, when you have a body, you're much stronger. And, you know, I think that, to me, that's one of the most important things. And I really would like to congratulate you, Vanessa, publicly, for all the work that you've done and bringing this together and continually searching out places that can take the group further. So, ngā mihi. Kia ora.
I think it's more than making. It's whānau, eh? I'm not sure why I'm feeling quite heavy about that, actually, Nigel. It's really hard to make work in this country, if I be perfectly honest. It's tough being an artist. And I think when you have wahine like this who have your back, and I've got theirs, it just makes it a little bit easier. I sit in my studio quite isolated at times, and I go out to Auckland once a week to teach, just to be around those like-minded people, and of course I have to earn a crust. But I think the one thing that I keep going back to, and it's something that I responded to when Vanessa asked, was no te roro, naku te roro. The sharing of knowledge, the sharing of resources, the sharing of aroha, manaaki, coming together and holding space. These are all things that, I don't know, it's that one thing of it takes a village. It takes a village of people to make what we make. And then the artwork speaks volumes, I suppose. I look at those 20 years and I see these ladies more as family than as colleagues, although they are, very, very special. And I think on Friday morning when I walked through these doors, I felt really heavy. 20 years. My daughter was 6 months or 8 months old when we formed, and unfortunately she can't be here. And I think, where did those 20 years go? So yeah, really special what we have got. And I feel very, very privileged to be standing and exhibiting with you ladies.
I have to tautoko that kōrero, Liki. I actually, when you stood up to talk, I leaned into Faith and said, I don't know if I can say something without doing what I always do. But honestly, these wahine are like whānau, who really do have our back. Even this morning when we were having a kōrero and Alexis goes, just remember, there's 6 other people here that have also got your back. And I thought, that's how it is. I think when we're making for shows like this, or we're working through process and we're problem solving, there can be times when you start to panic and you think, I don't know how to resolve this. And I know that I can just pick up the phone and say, hey, this is what's happening, what do you think? And we work it out and we move through it. And it's not just in our art practice that we do that as friends and now whānau. So that's what the last 10 years has been for me. I remember travelling down, Gabes and Faith had invited me to our wānanga at Vanessa's marae paukura, and I had done my art degree at North Tech, and I used to study Alexis Neal's work when I was a student. And I said to, I think it was Keatley, I was like, so who's going to be at this wānanga? And he was like, blah, 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 Alexis Neal. And I was like, what the heck? And I quietly fangirled when I met Liki the first time. So, I just still feel incredibly grateful to be working with these wahine, and I feel, so that's my... Thanks.
Good as Des.
Sorry.
Just tautoko everything that everyone said. I think I fell in love with printmaking because it was such a collaborative space. So it felt like at art school a space that I could comfortably be Māori in, and then it just grew from there. And so many, it's the relationships. Yeah, it's the relationships and how they ebb and flow, and some people move into the group and move out, and but it's always there. And
Once you're in the group, you're always in.
Yeah. You can't really leave. And these women are really inspiring to work with. They've all got their own power and energy and humour. And I feel very grateful to be part of a group and part of Vanessa's plan for world domination via Māori printmaking. You asked about something to remember, and I suppose one of the things that I remember the most was going to Vanessa's marae and waking up before dawn, and the song of the bellbirds across the lake, and that, I don't know, to me that's one of my Toi Whakaata memories that's lodged in my brain at this really beautiful, peaceful level. It's kind of, when you have aspirations, it's kind of that that's kind of the something that I hold in my heart about the group, and just that sharing and the food. Let's not forget the food. It's not all about ink and paper.
Tell them
About what?
the fried bread.
Oh, the fried bread, as well as Vanessa's whānau really supported her when we had that wānanga, and she had the odd uncle that was a chef. So on the last night they had a fried bread cooking competition. So there were all these different people, different breads, and we were supposed to judge.
With butter and golden syrup.
Butter and oh, well, that goes without saying. Yeah. So lots and lots of richness and warmth, and also this group, but the sense of being connected to a really huge group internationally, Indigenous, but also not Indigenous as well, and there's printmakers have this cool thing, they go places and they take prints and they swap. And that's just one of the things you do. So you're always kind of making these relationships. And I love that about our Rōpū, it's really cool. So, I don't think I've got anything else. That's it.
Thank you for entertaining that question. I'm glad I asked it because it sort of illuminated the glue and the journey and gave us all a little insight. It's been a pleasure having you all this morning, but also having the show here at Wairau. And it is on until end of November. So I know Jeeva's going to have a field day with her educational program, thinking about printmaking and print and so forth with the rangatahi that will come through the doors over that time. So it's a pleasure to have you, like we say, and for Wairau to be profiling our printmakers in such a powerful way in this show. I think someone said Gabes is the only artist that's exhibited twice at Wairau at the moment, so she holds the record, so to speak. But I think to me it just also reflects our whakawhanaungatanga as contemporary Māori artists and as curators, writers, and those that are invested in supporting and profiling our work as artists, as Māori artists. So that's the work of Wairau, and that's very rewarding for us as trustees to see that so powerfully in shows like this. I'm going to ask our friend back there if he would like to close us off with a quick karakia. He wasn't expecting that, but I'm sure he was in a way too.
Just a brief meeting. You are so inspiring, you think so broadly, you bring stories from the past, from the future, from 30 years ago, right to us right now. And you give us an insight into a different way of looking at it, someone else's way of looking at things. I do love the fashion angle, I'm quite particular about the fashion angle. But all of the different works, just they tell a different story, they tell a different whakapapa, they tell a different way of looking at things, because like, the identity stuff, I'm going, I'm just starting a job in corrections, and I'm going, we could teach our people in the rehabilitation process, rather than say, your GPH is made up of this. We can actually give them visuals. And then they can actually reconnect with their whānau, with their hapu, and their iwi, and then find another pathway that doesn't take them back to the gang or back to criminality when they get out from where they are. And just the inspiration of the shadow and the image. Now, you never even talked about your piece down here. And to me, that's one of the most powerful ones, because to me it's like a reflection. It's like a reflection on the water, that piece there. And sort of like, I sort of like momentarily distracted by the shadows, and then I went to the reflection, and I thought, I quite like this idea of reflection. And then now I understand the fashion background to all of this work. You know, it's amazing. And Gabrielle, just when you were doing your kōrero, and you said, and this is about Eitu and Reipai, and they came up here to marry some guy sent a messenger down to get them. Well, as a descendant of Ui Onune, the guy who sent the message down, I can say it was fairly successful. There are one or two of us Ngāti Koreans, who are sort of like stand here today because that man sent that message down to those two ladies. But you make us think, you challenge us to understand, and you bring different insights into all of our world. So I just wanted to stand here, not as a whānau member and brother of the faith, but actually as a person who's come to learn what the kōrero that you're trying to share with us. And just say thank you very much. Well, clearly the 20 years has been a challenge. The 20 years has been a long journey, but the fellowship and the friendship and the collegiality of those 20 years being together has been a powerhouse for all of you to be the successful artists that you are now. So, I mean, it's apparently that it's the way that this show has gone for me. Hugh, there's no one else who did the thing. Hugh, 5 minutes, I'm just parking the car. Phone goes, can you do the karakia tonight? And then, okay, can I just park the car first? And then this. So the trustees and all of the people of Te Whare Honohono or Huntavasa, Me Te Wairau Gallery, and all of the people who have come here today to share. Thank you all for coming to support these amazing ladies, because they, we're a key part of the process, because if they're the block for the work, then we're the impression, because we come and actually, we're the ones who come and be inspired, changed, and transformed by what we see. Hanging, lying, draped down and on the walls. So I like to think of this as it's like a human press process where you guys have got your inspiration and your knowledge, you've impressed it on us about what we see, what we feel, and what we hear. And I'm just making this up as I'm going along. You asked me, can you repeat what you said? I'm not going to remember.
Well, while you're making it up, make up the karakia.
Yeah, I mean, it really needs coffee. Okay. Eka. Kochi tā tātou nei noho, tā tātou nei whiriwhiri ngā kōrero, ki roto I tō tika, tō pono, me tō rau māni. Ko kitea tātou I ngā mahi toi, hei āhuatanga o tō kōriatanga ki roto te ao. Kei konei ngā whakapapa, kei konei ngā kōrero, kei konei ngā whakaro katoa, ko tukuna mai ki roto I te maria nei, kia mōhio, kia mātou, kia māramai tātou katoa. Chia kina hoki tātou, o te roa mō tā tātou nei rā, tā tātou nei noho, ki roto te whare, tā tātou nei putunga ki rune ki rori, kia whakahoki ki tā tātou nei kai. Haere chia tātou, ki roto te ora nei Māori, me tō aroha no, o I variety to mātou nei areki, ni kura tātou. E aroha,
Well done, ladies. I was nervous for nothing after all.
Love that coat.
Thank you, guys.
That was a great question.
Yeah, I knew it was. You got that. You got everyone thinking. Well done.
No, I'm not.
Pretty cool.
I'm just going to try and fix my work.
Yeah, well. Oh yes, definitely.
Well, that's what I mean.